flesh-eating zombies on a rampage.
I was shaking like this, and blood's all on my hands.
I'm sure that he would have ate or attacked 20 more people easily, and he would have just not been stopped.
A junk store discovery harbors a demon out for revenge.
I felt as if someone had just taken a knife into me and just kind of started ripping it up through my chest.
In 18 years of investigating the supernatural, paranormal, I've never ran into anything like the Dybbuk box.
The mutant manimal next door.
When I heard the howl, my mom said run, we just all started running.
I'm running. I'm getting away from whatever this thing is. This isn't human. It was dog boy.
Southern Florida, an area long associated with sunshine, citrus, and theme park characters. Lately, it's entered an entirely different dimension. Bizarre and terrifying attacks, striking in their similarity and savagery.
Recovering from the vicious attack in his front yard.
Frenzied, cannibalistic attack.
Ordinary young men, no prior history of illness or unusual behavior, mysteriously morphed into flesh-eating monsters.
I look back and I see he's coming, and I scream at my dad, telling him that there's someone trying to kill me or he's trying to bite my face.
He was attacking my son and biting him in the face. I didn't know if it was real or a nightmare.
In Florida, the public was on alarm, anxious about the next case, worried that such a monster could be real. The hysteria was at such a fevered pitch, the Centers for Disease Control released a statement denying zombies exist.
These South Florida cannibal attacks, they really are getting at the core of why zombies are so scary. This notion that you could be minding your own business, walking down the street, and someone would come attack you, begin to eat you while you were still alive. I mean, that's really at the core of what makes zombies so scary.
Thanks to Hollywood, most people think of them as reanimated flesh eaters, God-forsaken souls, neither dead nor alive.
Night of the living dead.
In fact, the zombie legend was born of Haitian voodoo and plantation slavery.
The Haitian voodoo zombie is brought back to life through a drugging and religious belief and a magic ceremony. I drug you, you pass out, you appear to be dead. Everyone around says, look, you know, you're dead. We bury you in a coffin under dirt. You wake up in the coffin several days later, and we dig you up, open up the coffin, and say, look, I brought you back to life, so now I own your soul.
If it all sounds like folklore, consider a zombie case that occurred on the island of Haiti in 1962. Clairvius Narcisse arrived at the Albert Schweitzer Hospital with a fever.
It's gonna be okay. Stay with me. Stay.
His condition quickly worsened. Within 48 hours, he was dead.
And there was a funeral the same day, and he was put in the ground and buried.
18 years later, Clairvius' sister, Angelina, was walking in her village when a familiar-looking man approached. She recognized her long-dead brother. He told her his tragic tale. How he had laid paralyzed in the hospital, heard the doctors pronounce him dead, felt the sheet pulled over his head, and listened as Angelina wept at his bedside. Then, he saw himself buried. Only his death was an evil trick.
Someone who excels at the dark arts, the black magic, dug him out of the ground and then proceeded to use him for the next 15 years on the plantation.
Clairvius labored in the cane fields until he finally escaped to freedom.
When you go to work and you're standing at the water cooler and you say, oh, I feel like a zombie today, you don't mean you want to eat your coworkers, right? You mean you feel listless, you have no willpower. That all comes from this notion of the Haitian voodoo zombie.
Recent attacks in Florida have put an entirely different sort of zombie in the spotlight.
The crazy thing about the MacArthur Causeway incident, there was no indication that someone like this, a seemingly normal guy with a job, would go completely insane and attack and cannibalize another living person.
He is beating another man to a pulp, like on top of the man, beating him. The man is bleeding.
May 26, 2012 started out an ordinary day for 31-year-old Rudy Eugene.
What are you up to today?
I'm going to a music festival down by the beach. You should definitely come with. It's going to be fun.
It's not my thing.
Ah, come on.
Still going to Bible study later?
Yeah, I got my book with me, so I'm going to meet up with a friend beforehand, and then I'll call you after. I'll see you later. You be good.
Rudy's girlfriend still can't understand what drove her boyfriend to be the monster he became that day.
I have to talk to you about something, but I'm sure you won't understand.
What are you talking about?
I don't know. I'll give you a call later and explain.
Rudy? Rudy!
His family would never see him again.
He took his car, he planned to go spend a day on the beach. Apparently his car broke down.
Hey, I'm just giving you a call to let you know I'm gonna be really late.
According to official reports, after the call at 6:30 a.m., something unexplainable happened to Rudy Eugene. Something horrible. Hours later, he is observed crossing west on the MacArthur Causeway.
Rudy Eugene was walking along the highway, completely incoherent and unaware of his own surroundings. He was confused.
At some point, the confusion turned to naked rage. On an exit ramp, 65-year-old Ronald Papo, a homeless man, sat peacefully in the shade. Papo had survived on the streets for decades, but never faced anything like this. What happened next was so horrific, it makes the idea of a zombie seem undeniable.
He tore off his own clothes and attacked this homeless man and continued to eat at his face like a snarling, feral beast.
911 calls poured in.
Motorists driving by witness it. People riding their bikes past. They see what's going on. They can't believe their eyes.
He is beating another man to a pulp, like on top of the man, beating him. The man is bleeding. He's gonna kill that man, I promise you.
18 minutes into the face-eating attack, police arrived on the scene.
They attempted to get Rudy Eugene to stop eating the man, and all Rudy Eugene did is look over at them and growl.
Get off me!
They shot him once, didn't even stop him. They had to shoot him several more times, and finally they were able to kill him.
The Miami Causeway incident was a singular moment in Florida.
People in Miami were afraid this was the zombie apocalypse because it was maybe some zombie virus.
A toxicology report on Rudy Eugene wouldn't come out for a month. In the meantime, fears about a zombie virus began to spread.
The zombie sickness is really just a virus with legs and teeth. It's an infectious disease that's being transmitted through blood or infected bodily fluid, turning one person into a zombie and then another person. One zombie equals 10 zombies equals 10 million zombies, and that's really the danger of it.
For now, there was only one zombie case. That would change.
My brother sees him chasing me, tries to tackle him, and tries to stop him.
It just wasn't like a regular human being. It was almost like he was like a zombie. They really thought I wasn't gonna make it. Like, this was the last night I was gonna have.
In South Florida, a series of notorious attacks have put the bizarre idea of predatory man-eating zombies front and center.
Cannibalism is really the ultimate taboo in almost every society that has ever existed on the planet. It almost flies in the face of human survival instincts. This notion that you would eat someone else that is just like you. People just do not do it.
31-year-old Rudy Eugene chewed off most of his face.
May 26, 2012. News of a zombie in Miami spread throughout the world.
The horrific attack on the MacArthur Causeway left so many shocked.
The rampage in Miami was so violent, many thought its source must be the dangerous synthetic street drug known as bath salts.
We see bath salt psychotic breaks across the United States and the world, and often it includes the person stripping naked and running around and doing insane things.
The results of Rudy Eugene's toxicology report were a complete surprise.
They found no trace of bath salts, only a slight trace of marijuana, which would not explain a psychotic break. There's no explanation for it, and to this day, it's not really understood why that happened.
As time went on, Eugene's case was dismissed as an unexplained, isolated event. Until recently. An hour north of downtown Miami sits the small coastal city of Delray Beach. Set back from seaside resorts, quiet neighborhoods, and gated communities. Recently, Delray became ground zero for another flesh-eating fiend. Brother and sister Tony and Tanya Grind grew up in this friendly neighborhood. They played sports, had good grades, and lived in a safe, loving home.
We live at the end of a quiet street with, lots of families and friends and, neighbors that we have here that are very friendly and always open, and it's just a quiet place.
That all changed on February 4th, 2014. It started out as a typical evening for the Grind family. 18-year-old Tony and his younger sister Tanya were at home helping their father with chores.
Me and my dad were working on a trailer in the back doing electrical, and I was cutting off like a piece of wrapper to go toss and throw away in the garbage, and that's when it all started.
As she's taking out the trash, Tanya was the first to notice the strange figure heading up the street.
He was naked and he was jogging. He was really tall and very muscled, almost like a linebacker on a football team. And he's jogging with his eyes really wide. He's looking directly at me, making eye contact with me. And then I was really scared. I was kind of terrified. The naked man started to run right towards me.
He just starts running at her, and that's when I start screaming, hey, hey. He was making more like grunt noises and weird sounds. He's going like, breathing hard and like kind of like weird sounds.
I was scared, really scared. Tony tried to stop him.
When I saw him running at my sister, I thought that I had to stop him. I couldn't let him touch my sister. And so that's when I ran at him and tried everything I could to stop him. And I hit him with like my whole body. And within a second, like within an instant, he's already on top of me. He's sitting there biting and choking me like he really wants to kill me.
You're not going to talk a zombie out of wanting to eat you. You're not going to threaten it with violence or pay it off or say, hey, zombie, eat my friend instead of me. There's nothing you can do to get the zombie to stop other than killing it.
The way he was acting was like a zombie. Bizarre and scary.
In Florida in 2012, a notorious flesh-eating attack. Rumors circulated about a zombie virus. The Centers for Disease Control dismissed the fears, urging calm. Then, on February 4th, 2014, in Delray Beach, Florida, 18-year-old Tony Grine and his younger sister Tanya were taking out the trash. At the end of their driveway, when they passed through the automatic gate, all hell broke loose.
In a panic, I'm trying to save my sister. At first, I thought he was gonna bite me and just leave, but he's sitting there biting and choking like he really wants to kill me. Because of his strength, the way he acted, his grunting, his noises, it just wasn't like a regular human being.
Tony had nearly given up hope when he remembered the box cutter he was using earlier.
I grabbed my box cutter and I just started stabbing him in the face 3 or 4 times. When I stabbed him, he didn't flinch, he didn't feel it, it didn't faze him. It was almost as if he was invincible. I can't do anything but stab him, and that's not even working, so like I'm not gonna make it, this isn't gonna work.
Suddenly, the automatic gate, set to a timer, began to close.
And it pins me, and it pushes the guy off of me, so then I'm pinned, I can't fight, I can't do anything. He's gonna get me for sure, and I start screaming for help.
All of a sudden, my daughter came running, screaming that there's a naked man in the front yard trying to rape her and stuff. When I ran to the end of the driveway and I saw him, he was attacking my son and biting him in the face. I didn't know if it was real or a nightmare. I really wanted to back off and run, but I couldn't. I had to protect my son. So I punched the man, I punched him in the face, but it didn't seem to faze him.
Hits him, just one good punch. And I guess like the guy, he didn't really register it.
His eyes were sort of, looked like in a trance.
The zombie backed off and mysteriously changed course.
I was dumbfounded in the beginning. I didn't know what to do, but then I said I better follow him to find out where he goes. I gotta keep after him so he doesn't get away. And in the meantime, I was running as fast as I possibly could. I'm completely out of breath.
But the zombie man seemed to have superhuman speed and stamina. By the time Mario caught up to his son's attacker, the police had him cornered. It was a frantic face-off.
And then I heard the police yelling, get down, get down, get down. And then I heard the gunshots, bang, 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 bang. I absolutely believe that he would have attacked at least 20 more people. It did not appear that he was ready to stop.
The MacArthur Causeway cannibal. An autopsy performed on the Delray attacker, Annis and Joseph, found no evidence of drugs or other substances to explain his violent behavior.
The attacker was much bigger than my son Tony, and why he chose to bite him in the face and bite him in the ear, I don't really understand. There's a lot of unanswered questions and what really went down.
The notion that there could be a disease out there, there could be an infection, there could be something that turns your loved ones, that turns your neighbors into raving maniacs that want to attack and kill you and turn you into one of it, that freaks me out. That keeps me awake at night. And so I figured, hey, I'll overcome my fear, right? Face your fear and overcome it. Unfortunately, that was 10 years ago, and I'm more afraid of zombies than I ever have been.
In northwest Missouri sits the small town of Kirksville, an affable college town with tree-lined streets and a downtown square. Kirksville is sensible and safe, a place to put down roots, raise a family. All this might be at risk now that something wicked has made its way to Kirksville. An old wooden box holding a very dark secret.
So where does this thing come from anyway?
I don't know, I think it came from somewhere overseas.
One of the things I noticed is putting my hands on the box. It felt, with your eyes closed, as if it just turned to liquid.
I do believe that the Dybbuk box, for whatever reason, I think it came after me, and I just hope its lesson is over, because it's been a really tough one.
The Dybbuk is a very powerful demon, and they do cause trouble if they're unleashed.
The old wooden box that arrived in Kirksville is by many accounts the dwelling place of a very unusual monster. In ancient Jewish mythology, a Dybbuk is a demonic spirit, a lost soul of the dead, one capable of possessing and tormenting a living person. A Dybbuk might even be conjured forth as a weapon, summoned by those so desperate they'd risk calling forth a monster, evil to fight evil. Lying in wait till needed, a Dybbuk might take up residence in an ordinary object, like an old box. Jason Haxton is the director of a university medical museum and an avid collector of antiques. In 2004, he heard about a mysterious Jewish artifact and knew he wanted it for his collection.
I'd first learned of the Dybbuk box at work from my staff member, and I became curious as to what was this and what was its history.
Had he known the true horror the box would inflict on his family, he might have resisted its pull.
So I purchased the Dybbuk box and had it delivered to my work at the museum.
It's certainly old.
Yes, it is. It appears to be a simple wooden box for storing wine. Its obvious age and curious contents made it attractive as a collectible. But buyer beware.
When I was exploring it, one of the first things I noticed is putting my hands on the box. It felt as if someone had just taken a knife into me and just kind of started ripping it up through my chest.
Ow! Jason's son Ross remembers his father's initial encounter with the box.
You okay?
Yeah. When he put his hands on it, he felt pain. He had the taste of metal in his mouth that he couldn't seem to get out, and he was pretty freaked out.
Are you okay?
Yeah, Ross, I'm fine. I'm good.
And it made me so sick that literally I just had to put it away and go home.
We'll pick it up tomorrow.
And that's when I started worrying about this artifact, that maybe I purchased something and brought something into my life that I shouldn't have.
For Jason, tales of the Dybbuk spirit were only the stuff of folklore. Now, he wasn't so sure. His co-workers at the museum weren't so certain either.
What the heck happened to you?
Jason, we gotta talk about this box.
There was these sudden accidents, unusual situations of death, and horrible injuries, and the staff itself became very listless, very depleted of energy.
We all wanted to go. Just gotta go.
He was in fear for his coworkers, and he was in fear for his job.
I'll deal with it. All right, thank you. All right.
So Jason did the one thing he'd never rationally do.
I had to take the Dybbuk box home because there was no other place in my mind to have it. And it was a bad choice, perhaps, but nothing bad would happen.
The strange occurrences that happened to him started happening to us, too.
A Dybbuk is an ancient Jewish monster called into the world to do one thing: seek revenge. In 2004, Jason Haxton, a museum director in Kirksville, Missouri, bought a wine cabinet online. He soon became convinced the box was harboring a Dybbuk.
One day, my dad comes home with the Dybbuk box. And as soon as he brings it into the house, strange things start to happen.
Ross, come on down for dinner.
We had strange smells start to pervade our house. The horrible smell of cat piss followed by the smell of jasmine flowers would just suddenly pervade a whole area, then completely go away. And we had no real explanation for this.
Dad, why is that box there?
You'll be okay. Just go wash up.
We'd have strange physical occurrences like light bulbs just burning out all at once. Strange apparitions, black fire would appear around areas that were near to the box, and it would burn in the air.
Just wish it wasn't here.
Look, the guys were a little upset. I didn't have a lot of options. Today it had to go.
Well, if the guys were upset.
Look, it's my responsibility. I was the one that bought it, so I'm the one that brought it here, so I felt obligated.
And my dad tried to explain this unnatural phenomena initially, but there was no explaining some of this stuff.
At first, the family was merely spooked. Then, the real terror set in. Jason's physical health deteriorated at an alarming rate.
Oh. Hey, babe. Can you look at my shoulder? I think there's something wrong with it.
Hey, what's wrong?
My eyes.
It's okay.
No, it's like somebody scratched my eyes.
I woke up and it was as if somebody had clawed at my eyes and they were all bloody.
They're really red.
My wife noticed at first. She said, something's wrong with you, and I looked in the mirror and it really was quite severe.
Oh my gosh, look at my eyes.
I went to see 2 different eye doctors, and both said that my eyes just spontaneously dried up. I was like, well, how does that happen? It's like, there's no explanation, but that's what's causing now your bleeding, is the fact that something has happened to you physically, and you'll probably have this the rest of your life.
Jason began to suspect some substance on the box was sickening him.
Your shoulder.
Well, maybe I picked up something like, tuberculosis, or poisoned myself by touching this thing. Maybe there's cyanide on it, or anthrax, or who knows what.
The museum director ordered diagnostic tests on the wood. All the tests came back clean.
It's not a path I wanted to go down, but I felt that having now explored the scientific realm, it had to be maybe something spiritual.
I think my breaking point with the box was when I first ventured down to the basement in our house. We'd had the box down there because we didn't know what else to do with it. When I descended the steps, turned on the light, I see all these little insects just gathered around the box. And they seemed to be basking in it. I thought it was the scariest thing I'd ever seen.
With all this turmoil, Jason needed to understand the box, and quickly. He dug into the past and uncovered its remarkable history. In the late 1930s, in pre-war Poland, Hitler's plan for world domination was getting underway. Nazi sympathizers terrorized Jews and other minorities. A small group of Jewish women took it upon themselves to act.
In trying to protect themselves from all the evils of the Holocaust, they contacted the spiritual world and created this box to trap this entity.
They attempted to summon a Dybbuk to fight for them.
We have to stay. We're doing this.
Pitting evil against evil.
Go alone.
They were so desperate, they risked unleashing a malicious monster, so powerful, it could not be controlled. Jason now understood the box's origins, what the Dybbuk was meant to do. But why Kirksville? How did it come to reside with him?
If this was a box that was prayed to understand the Holocaust, it made no sense to me why it would be in Kirksville, Missouri, an area that is so removed from World War II and the Holocaust.
What he unearthed was astonishing.
I believe that Kirksville is ground zero for the Holocaust because of a Kirksville resident named Harry Hamilton Laughlin.
In the 1920s, Harry Laughlin, a biologist educated in Kirksville, Missouri, developed a plan for compulsory sterilization. A scheme to use the new science of genetics to weed out so-called undesirables. Immigrants, the homeless, the blind, and the deaf. Laughlin's dangerous ideas found fertile soil in Nazi Germany, taking root among Hitler's radical extermination practices. Laughlin himself died in obscurity, buried in Kirksville, a footnote in the genocide he helped spawn.
He was buried in a grave and forgotten, meaning that the truth of what he did would never be out there.
Could the Dybbuk have tracked this Holocaust evil and followed Laughlin to Kirksville? Unfortunately, it was Jason Haxton who had the Dybbuk on his hands. Perhaps burying the box would put things to rest.
Could it be a coincidence on the day that we put it in the ground opens up? Again, it made no sense. We buried the box, it was out to bury us.
Kirksville, Missouri. After the Haxton family took ownership of an antique Hebrew artifact, all manner of misery ensued. The penalty for possessing the Dybbuk box. Jason Haxton consulted a rabbi who told him that to make the box inert, he must lay it to rest in a ritual way.
It wouldn't destroy it or get rid of it, it would just contain it.
Burying it near the house, Jason thought he'd put an end to months of misfortune. The next day, the whole family felt a sense of relief. Only it was way too early for that.
My mother was taking out food scraps from the kitchen to give to the animals, and she was walking across their backyard.
Out in the yard, the Dybbuk had moved rock and earth to lay a lethal trap.
It was a huge, huge sinkhole that just erupted, essentially overnight, and it almost killed her.
Had she deviated just 6 inches, it's likely she would have plunged to her death. We buried the box, it was out to bury us.
Was it a coincidence? The Haxtons could only pray the Dybbuk would finally settle down.
Currently, the box is hidden away in an undisclosed location. I actually haven't seen it in over a year.
It's in an ark, it's in a military case. 2,000 years from now, it won't be any different than when it went in the ground. It's just buried.
We have had no more further strange happenings ever since it has been sealed.
I think there is something that I don't understand, and I don't want to put anybody at risk.
In northwestern Pennsylvania, the Shanango River snakes through sloping grasslands and wooded hills. To generations of Pennsylvania farmers, this was a bit of heaven on earth. Then, a wretched beast made itself known. An appalling mixture of mutt and man.
When I heard the howl, I was scared because I didn't know what it was. It almost had a human voice to it.
Mercer, Pennsylvania. A small farming community just east of the Shanango River. Sisters Margie Lytle and Jane Peters grew up roaming the dirt roads, free as the birds.
It's said that the dog boy lives in an old farmhouse with a coven of witches.
But there were occasional whispers of something unusual, unnatural, something their parents feared.
My mom was very scared. I mean, she was visibly shaken, and she just couldn't emphasize enough, you know, be in the yard before dark. She says, be careful of dog boy. So, you know, you come home if you see it or hear it, you come home.
The stories of the dog boy date at least back to the 1950s, the early 1950s, but they may reach back even farther in time to legends brought with German settlers.
After hearing about her mother's fear of something in the neighborhood, Jane and a friend let their curiosity get the better of them.
I was about 10 years old, and I wanted to go see if I could see this dog boy.
According to local lore, the dog boy lived in an abandoned farmhouse nearby.
The legend was that there was a coven of witches that supposedly lived in this red house, and they would call upon this creature to protect the general area where they lived.
You girls promise me you will not go near that house. Promise me. Promise.
My mother warned me not to go down to that house, but I didn't listen to her.
That's the house.
I wanted to know what it was.
Should we go?
I'm not going. Come on, Margie. Don't you want to see Dog Boy? You guys are going to get in trouble. I'm going home.
We were coming down the road, and just as we looked over at the house, and this dog boy was sitting about 10 feet from the house. And when we saw him, he saw us too. And he had dark hair all over his face, all over his body, 3 to 4 feet tall. And he had a blue shirt and a pair of blue shorts on. He was completely covered in dark hair.
That's the dog boy.
You really couldn't tell what he was. I mean, it was like he was a human, but he had hair all over him, but yet he resembled a dog. And when he'd run like he was gonna try to hide, kind of hunched over, and he was fast. I mean, he was right behind that house before we could even blink an eye.
The girls had laid eyes on the legendary dog boy. Their paths would cross again.
And that hand came around. It's not a boy, it's not a dog, it's both. It's both.
In northwestern Pennsylvania, in the Shanango River Valley, legends persist about a canine-human hybrid. Some suggest it might be the product of European folk magic.
The legend of the werewolf in many European countries, especially Germany, was that this was some sort of shapeshifter. Usually they had to make a pact with the devil, and it was considered a sort of sorcery or witchcraft to do this.
In 1955, Margie Lytle and her sister Jane would find themselves face to face with a neighborhood legend. Dog Boy. A few nights later, the sisters and some of their friends were on a long walk under the watchful eye of their mother.
My mom was the neighborhood mom. The kids would come there, and they always felt welcome. and she would take us on these walks in the evening. And I think it was one way of my mom knowing where all of us were, and us kids and my brother and sister. We were walking past this one farmhouse, and my mom commented, "I think that might be where Dog Boy lives." It was almost like a wolf's howl, but on the end of it was like a screech. That's odd. It was just odd. It was so high-pitched that it just sent chills through my body.
We all looked at each other and says, "What was that?"
I don't know what this is. It's very terrifying. And my mother said, "Run."
When I heard the howl and my mom said, "Run," we just all started running.
I was, quite short, so I'm lagging behind. I look back briefly and I see this creature. I turned back around, I was continued running.
9-year-old Margie is no match for the creature's speed. In a matter of seconds, the beast had caught her.
Up on his hind leg and grabbed my hand. I screamed, and that hand came around like almost like cloven, and I'm screaming and trying to shake it. And I couldn't shake away from it because it was stronger than I was. It's got me. This is it. This thing is going to drag me off somewhere, and I'm going to die. This thing is real. It does exist. It wants me. It's got me. My mother grabs my other arm and yanks me. At that moment, it lost its grip, and then it ran back the way it came, down on all fours. We ran until we couldn't run anymore. It's very desolate there, no houses, there's nothing there. Is this thing going to come back? Is it going to try to get us again? And my mother said, "Stay together. Let's all stay together, and let's just get home." It was one of the scariest, horrifying experiences I've ever had. Just absolute fear. Just fear.
Even 6 decades later, crossing paths with the Dog Boy still haunts and terrifies the sisters.
Half boy, half dog? I don't know, but how can that happen? For years, because I had such intense fear, I avoided it. I didn't go there. I didn't go on that road. I didn't go near it because of the fear.
I can remember it to this day as to what I saw. No, I've never seen nothing like that before. Never.
I used to be pretty free, and go in the woods and play, and all of us kids did. Even sitting here talking about it, I can feel that apprehension, and some of that fear is still in me. It's still there, and it probably always will be, because you don't know. You just don't know what's out there.